So this Sicha is both it has to do with Shabbos Parshas Vayera, but also this Shabbos is Chav Cheshvan. Chav Cheshvan, we know, is the birthday of the Rebbe Rashab, and this actually has to do with understanding a very basic mitzvah in our parsha, which is the mitzvah of Bikur Cholim, together with understanding a story that happened with the Rebbe Rashab. And the Rebbe is going to speak about that the fact that we need to understand the story that happened with the Rebbe Rashab, it's a story, what's the big deal? But the Rebbe's whole approach always is, everything that happens, especially with a tzaddik, even when he's young, has in it a lesson, has in it a teaching, especially since it was part of a conversation that the Rebbe Rashab had with his grandfather, the Tzemach Tzedek. And the Tzemach Tzedek didn't dismiss the Rebbe Rashab's question, but he actually had answered him in a certain way. And a lot of the Sicha is going to be about what was the question of the Rebbe Rashab, why was the question here, what was the Tzemach Tzedek's answer, and so on. Okay, you guys came just in time. We are starting now. Kvar super kam upon me on Meise. Sheire bekwoit dus Admar Rashab nicht mehr seiden. Bi Yosef ben Daled ay hey shonim. He was either 4 or 5 years old. Bi Shabbos Parshas Vayera. Admar nicht mehr seiden. Der Rebbe Rashab nichnas el zekenoi kwoit dus Admar Tzemach Tzedek lekabel es birchasei liyom iladetoi. Because the Rebbe Rashab was born on Chav Cheshvan Tafresh Chav Aleph, so like when he was 4 or 5 years old, for his Yom Miladus, he went into the Tzemach Tzedek. By the way, Chassidim always used to try to go in, for especially by the Rebbe, for their Yom Miladus, for Yechidus, and then later the Rebbe stopped that. It was getting a little bit too much, etc. V'tyapeach b'bchi ba'amroi mipnei ma'ala Avraham Avinu nisgala HaKadosh Baruch Hu ve'ilu eleinu, which is a love, the Rebbe Rashab, ein nira. V'yaneu Tzemach Tzedek, Yehudi Tzadik, B'Yosef ben Tzadik tes shonim, Machlit she'ol of lomlos atzmoi, ro'uyu hu sh'Hashem yirah lov. Okay, so that's the story. It's well known among Chassidim. The Rebbe speaks different sichas actually analyzing the story that happened with the Rebbe Rashab when he was 4 or 5 years old. Here, he's also going to analyze it, but in a way that has to do more with the events that this child already learned in Chumash. And based on what he learned in Chumash, there are questions that we need to understand about what the Rebbe Rashab wanted. Sipuri Rabbi Seinu B'chlal B'frat Elu Shehem Atzmam Gilu Lanu Al Manas Lefarsamam Vada Mediyokim Hem B'chol Proteim Afilu HaSipurim She'iru B'katnusam when the Rabbeim tell us something, they're not just having conversations. Everything that the Rabbeim are telling us, even a story, is meant to teach us a lesson. So therefore, since it's meant to teach us a lesson, there must be a message in the story. Just put aside that he was 4 or 5 years old. If the previous Rebbe found it important to give it over, that means there's a lesson over here. That small, when something is small, they said this about certain Amoraim, when they are small, you could tell already when you pick them how good they're going to be. Literally, it's talking about small cucumbers. Before they're fully ripe, as soon as you see them, or if you pick them, even when they're young, you could see, is this going to be a good quality fruit or not? And the Chazal used that as a mashal for very great people, that even though they were still children, you could see by certain things that they said when they were children about who they were. So therefore, the Rebbe Rashab, even though he was 4 or 5 years old when this happened, still in all, this has a deep meaning to it. Move on. She'einam rak inim she'efshar lilmod menu heirav avayis Hashem. Kifi shetzarich adam lilmod mikol davar sheroya shemeyam elahim koilim toichen miyuchad sheyesh alayim doy lavina. In general, anything that a Yid sees and hears, this is one of the basic lessons that a Baal Shem Tov Kol ma sheyehudi roya shemea, he has to learn from it in avodas Hashem. But even more so when it's something that the Rabbeim told us. And even more so when it's a story that happened with one of the Rabbeim, even though when he was a child. V'hinei b'sipura amur eina movin. Vayera Hashem al Avraham nemar kvar le'el. V'af beis pamim. But Parshas Lech Lecha, we find twice that it says that Hashem appeared to Avraham. U'madua b'chias admun sh'aseidin al zeh sh'HaKadosh Baruch Hu nira la'Avraham. Ve'eleinu, a love to the Rebbe Rashab, eina nira haisa b'kesher l'pasuk of Parshas Vayera v'loy the Parshas Lech Lecha. Very basic question. The Rebbe, a lot of his questions are just like very simple, what we would call balabatisha questions, klotz kashas, just a basic question. This is not the first time that it says in Chumash Vayera Lov Hashem that Hashem appeared to Avram. Why all of a sudden, when it came to this parsha, the Rebbe Rashab cried and like broke down crying. It wasn't just Stam crying. He was mamish crying very hard. Why doesn't the Eibishter appear to him? But you already learned in Parshas Lech Lecha already twice that Hashem appeared. Why didn't it bother you over there? Umadua b'chias admun sh'seidin al zeh sh'HaKadosh Baruch Hu we said this right. Nir l'Avram ve'leinu elov eina nir ha'isa b'kesher l'pasuk b'Parshas Vayera v'loy the Parshas Lech Lecha. So now the Rebbe says like this. In Parshas Lech Lecha, it says twice Vayera, but once it says it later on in the Parsha. L'gava Vayera Hashem al Avram habeis v'Parshas Lech Lecha efsher loymar sh'admun sh'seidin adayin lo lomad pasuk zeh מאחר שמקוימה כמעט בסיום הפרשה כסדר הלימודים הקטנים הנוג בכמה מקוימס שלא עומדים עמם בכל שבוע רק חלק מפרשת השבוע. One of the ways that they would learn with kids Chumash, that's not necessarily the way they do it now in the Chadorim that I'm familiar with, but one of the ways how they used to do it was they used to keep up with the parsha of the week. So obviously with a young child you couldn't cover the entire parsha, so the week of Parshas Vayera, they read how many psukim they could cover in Parshas Vayera. The week of Parshas Lech Lecha, they read how many psukim you can cover in Parshas Lech Lecha. So the second time it says Vayera Hashem al Avram in Parshas Lech Lecha, it could be that Rebbe Rashab didn't learn it. So from that, it's not a question about why the Rebbe Rashab did not cry, why Hashem doesn't appear to him. Avol Vayera Hashem al Avram b'pam harishoyna shenamer b'tchilas haparsha vaday kvar lomados. That was at the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha. U'mipnei ma lo ba b'chiyasi b'kesher l'pasuk zeh. So now he says a very interesting thing. We said earlier that why did the Rebbe Rashab go into the Tzemach Tzedek? It was connected with his birthday. Since his birthday was on Chav Cheshvan is always around Parshas Vayera. So like this Shabbos is actually Chav Cheshvan this year. So therefore, that's why it came up. But Parshas Yishleimar Atam, Kishanichnas Adam Bunish Musein LeTzemach Tzedek, LeKabel Birchase B'Keshel Yemar Ledes, Hayazeh B'Shabbos Parshas Vayera. V'Lachein Shal Ala Inyan Shalamad Oz. That's what he was learning then. Al Vayera Alav Hashem Shenamar Parshas Vayera. So therefore, he had no opportunity to complain and to cry before the Tzemach Tzedek. Why is Hashem not appearing to him? So it wasn't a matter that it's something have to do specifically with this parsha that the Rebbe Rashab cried. If his birthday would have been in Parshas Lech Lecha and then he would have gone into the Tzemach Tzedek, he would have cried then. It just happens to be that he went in for his birthday. His birthday was in Parshas Vayera, so he cried about it that it said in Parshas Vayera. But in truth, it could have bothered him also in the previous parsha. If that's the case, so then the answer to Tzemach Tzedek is a problem. What did the Tzemach Tzedek tell him? The Tzemach Tzedek told him that when a Yid, or a Yid Tzaddik, to 99 years old, is willing to go through a Bris Milah, he's worthy of the Eibishter appearing to him. That answer only applies in this week's parsha. It doesn't apply in the previous parshas. Rak al Vayera of Hashem, the Parshas Vayera, V'loi heir she'inyan Vayera Hashem al Avraham kvar lifnei zeh Parshas Lech Lecha v'as beis pamim. First of all, before the Tzemach Tzedek's answer, why didn't the Tzemach Tzedek just tell him, this is not the first time that it says Vayera. It says Vayera already twice in Parshas Lech Lecha. But even more difficult is what I mentioned before, B'yoser Yuksha, Kshuvas Tzemach Tzedek, Shakadosh Baruch Hu Nizgala Avraham Avinu, Mipnei Shehichlit Shetzarech Lomos Atzmai, Miasheves Rakes Aposek Vayera Lav Hashem Sheparshas Seinu Sheba Achrach Latasi Lomel. Aval Hashayla Vabchia Be'enoi Medus Benegel Vayera Hashem Avraham Amun Parshas Lech Shoyu Lifnei Shemolas Atzmai. Since the whole reason that the whole explanation of Tzemach Tzedek was because Avraham Avinu was willing to go through the Bris Milah, so therefore he was worthy that the Eibishter should appear to him. So, but then the question still remains: what do we do with the Vayera and Parshas Lech Lecha? The Rebbe says in the footnote that the second time Vayera, it's already connected with Avraham Avinu's decision to go through a Bris Milah. So you could say it's as if, since he was already machlit, it's already, but the first time Vayera had nothing to do with a Bris Milah. So the truth is that Tzemach Tzedek's answer doesn't truly answer the question, because the question still remains from the beginning of Parshas Lech Lecha, why did Hashem appear to Avraham, and to me he doesn't appear. Beis hapamim de Vayera Parshas Lech Lecha hayu hagdama v'achana le'amira. Why did Hashem appear? It wasn't just stamazeh. It was Hashem was going to tell Avraham something. Vayera lav Hashem vayomer u'memela ein kol makom leVayera la'adam shlo elav ha'is ha'amira. There's no question. The Rebbe Rashab wouldn't have had a question, because he knows that Hashem is not speaking to him. Hashem has no messages to tell him. He's not telling him Lech Lecha me'artzecha. He's not telling him to go and do a Bris Milah. So therefore, the Rebbe Rashab would not have a question, why should Hashem appear to me? There's nothing what to talk about. There's nothing, no message that he has to give me. Masha enkin Parshas Seinu ein kol amira oikiyotze b'zeh behemshich levayera ela vayera haya inyan b'fnei atzmai v'lachein bacha k'vaytush admon sh'seiden davke b'kesh levayera zeh. It's a very interesting thing. You look at the parsha. What happened? Vayera alav Hashem, and then what happened? The malachim came and he started taking care of the malachim, but it doesn't say anything that happened because Hashem appeared to him. And because of that, Rashi has to go explain that why Hashem appeared to Avraham, Lavakir Sachoyla, because otherwise it doesn't make any sense. Why would Hashem appear to Avraham? There's no connection to any story. No event was taking place. So because no event was taking place, so the Rebbe Rashab had a question. Just like Avraham Avinu, Hashem appeared to him for no reason, why doesn't he appear to me for no reason? The fact that the Eibishter appeared to Avraham to tell him something in Parshas Lech Lecha has nothing to do with me. He's not telling me anything. But just to appear of no reason, he should appear to me also. So the Rebbe says, Amnam ze'eina. You can't answer this question. You can't say that that's the difference between our Parshas Vayera, why the Rebbe Rashab cried, but he didn't cry in Parshas Lech Lecha. Afilei ma'is gals to Vayera hoysel etzorech amirim. Harimatzinu bekama mekoymes shenemar vayomer Hashem el goymer leloi hagdamas vayera Hashem goymer. True, in the previous parsha it says vayera and vayomer, but not every single time where there was a vayomer was there a vayera. Hashem could speak to him without appearing to him, without a vayera. So therefore, mashma mizeh shegam kan vayero inyan la'atzmoi v'loy rak akdama la'amira v'hadra kushel l'duchter. So therefore, even in Parshas Lech Lecha, where it says vayera twice before the amira, but since Hashem could speak to Avraham and to other Nevi'im without saying over the vayera, so it's two separate things, vayera and vayomer. So if it's two separate things, you could still ask, why doesn't Hashem appear to me? True, he's not speaking to me, but why doesn't he stama have the idea of Vayera? In addition to that, another reason why that's not a good explanation on the difference between Vayera of Parshas Lech Lecha and Vayera of our Parsha. In the noise was Gam LeVayera Shel Parshas Seinum. Hoytza Siba Matarim Yuchedes Kepirish Rashi B'Pshuti Shel Mikra LeVaker Zachoylam. V'ilu Eitzad Mun Shasein Loysa Siba Zu. I just mentioned before what the Rashi says. It's a question. Pshut Shel Mikra. A child learns the pasuk. A Ben Chamish Shel Mikra learns the pasuk. It says Vayera Olav Hashem. For what? It doesn't say that Hashem did anything, said anything. What was going on? So Rashi right away says, "Im Pshut Shel Mikra for Ben Chamish Shel Mikra." Why? Levaker Sachayla. Since Avraham Avinu was sick, because it was the third day since he did the Bris Milah, so Hashem was being Mevaker Sachayla. He was doing Bikur Chayla. So, just like you're saying, the Rebbe Rashab didn't have a question in last week's Parsha about Vayera, because there was a reason for the Vayera. Was the Vayera to be able to tell Avraham Avinu something after the Vayera there's a Vayomer, and by me, the Eibush is not telling me anything, so why should the Eibush appear to me? The same thing, I'm not sick. Why should the Eibush appear to me? Avraham Avinu was sick, so Hashem appeared to him to be Mevakir Sachoyla. But I'm not sick, why should the Eibush appear to me? So just like in the previous parsha, he understands that the Vayera doesn't apply to him, the same thing in this parsha, the Vayera doesn't apply to him because he has no reason for the Eibush to visit him. So he says, the Baal Turim is that why the Baal Turim answers the question about why did Hashem appear to Avraham in our parsha differently than Rashi. Rashi says it was Lavakir Tzachayla, but the Baal Turim says a different reason. Shvayera Lav Hashem beParshas Seinu Hoysa b'Shvil Hamila b'Schus Shekiyem Avraham Avinu Mitzvahs Milah. That's why he did such a great mitzvah. Sounds a little bit like what the Tzemach Tzedek said. He did such a great mitzvah of the Mitzvahs Milah, so that's why Hashem appeared to him. That was the reason. It was like a schar or something. Al pizeh hayav shalachur liyashiv shezu haisa tainus ubchiyas ad munim shesein. Kivin shagam biyadi yashnas chus the Mitzvahs Milah magila aschar v'yera lo Hashem. Avraham Avinu had a Bris Milah and I had a Bris Milah. So if Hashem appears to Avraham Avinu because he got a Bris, so why doesn't he appear to me that I got a Bris Milah also? Valzeh amaleh Tzemach Tzedek sheyev sheli damis laAvraham shel mitzvahs hamilah shaloi of Avraham Avinu haisa mailim yuchedes shemal atzmai b'yosef and tzadik tes shonim v'lachein zachahu dafke levayera. So according to the Baal Turim, it's understood what the question of the Rebbe Rashab was. Why did the Rebbe Rashab ask this question only in this parsha? Because in this parsha, the reason why Hashem appeared to Avraham Avinu was because of the Milah. So he wanted to know, I have a Bris Milah, so why doesn't he appear to me? And the answer, Tzemach Tzedek, makes sense. The way you did the Bris Milah and the way Avraham Avinu did the Bris Milah is completely different. That's why Avraham Avinu has the schus of Hashem appearing to him. So the Rebbe says, we still don't like it. Amnam doiche God leimer kein sharei aleph Rashi pirish kanal. Rashi doesn't hold it about Turim's explanation. Shavayera Lav Hashem loyhoyas char ba'alma b'shvil hamila elo levakir sachoyla upirish Rashi al ha'toyra hu gam leben chamish lemikra umistaber sheshelas kvaydujus admin shesein biyosin nar ben dalad oihei shonim. The years when Rashi wrote his pirish. Rashi wrote his pirish for a 5-year-old that's learning Chumash. You can't say that the question of the Rebbe Rashab only makes sense according to the Baal Turim. But according to the Rashi, the question doesn't make any sense, because you're going to say, Hashem appeared to Avraham Avinu because he was being Mevakir as a Chayla. You, the Rebbe Rashab, are not a Chayla. Why should they appear to you? So what was his question? According to Rashi, what was the question? Beis, afilu lepirish Baal Turim. Hine ma'achar shamaduber hu ba'ad munish neseit shebi yoysi kotten nikru boy me'ein ma'aloysa begadlusai v'kanal, like we said before, asher butzim mekat from Yediyah, you know something, the quality of it, even when they're young. Vada yodas goydel mailas avoidus Avraham Avinu b'chlal. V'alachas kama v'kama sheheven as ha'mailach hipshuta v'gluya shemilas Avraham Avinu l'gav mitzvah mila b'chlal shenasa begil tzadik tashana. You want to tell me that the Rebbe Rashab, who was already at 4 or 5 years old, was very wise and mature, because he actually cried and was upset that Hashem doesn't appear to him. And he wouldn't have understood by himself the difference, the way Avraham Avinu did the mitzvah smilah, the way he did the mitzvah smilah, to such a degree that he's going to cry, why didn't Hashem appear to me like he appears to Avraham? He needed the Tzemach Tzedek to explain to him the difference about the way he's doing the mitzvah and the way Avraham Avinu did the mitzvah. Ein makim loimer shadmun shaseiden afilu bi yosei cotton yidame atzmoi laVavraham Avinu ad sheyavoi b'tainem b'pnei ma nira kadosh baruch hu laVavraham Avinu b'schus hamila v'lo yeinen nira. So the Rebbe says in Ois Vav a very interesting thing, that just the opposite. It's not because of the Balaturim. The question is dafke because of the opinion of Rashi. Dafke because Hashem came to be mevaker es hachoyle. That's why the Rebbe Rashab had this question. Yeshloim Rabbi Yerbezeh, the Adrabe, Tainus Admurim Shasei Nanal, Ochen Bo, Mipnei Yodas Divrei Rashi, Shvayera Hashem, Oy Levaker es hachoyle. Lule Pirish Rashi, if not for Rashi's explanation, Loi Hoyse, Loi Kol Taina, my Duena Kadosh Baruch Hu Nirei Lov K'may Lavraham Avinu. Sharei Ein Mokim Klal, Sheyash V'atzmei Lavraham Avinu. He would never think of comparing himself. Al Ma'acher Shvayera Hashem, Hoyse Levaker es hachoyle, Inyan Shal Gemilus Chesed. In Torah, in the Lashon Chazal, there are different categories of mitzvahs. There are things called Gemilus Chesedim that fall onto multiple categories, like we say in the brachas in the morning. Hachnasis Kala, Bikur Chaylim, these Halvoyas Hameis, these are things that go into the category of Gemilus Chesedim. Tzedakah is a corollary to Gemilus Chesed. So therefore, since Bikur Chaylim was Gemilus Chesed, Hashem did it because of her kindness. Haynu Vayera Hashem hayaloi kol kach mitzad mailas madreges Avraham Avinu. Ela mitzad chazdei shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what Gemilus Chesedim means. Gemilus Chesed doesn't mean that the person earned it. When I help a kala get married, achnosas kala, is that because the kala is on a very high level spiritually, and that's why I help her out? When I lend somebody money, which is a lot of times the usage of the word gemach, is it because that person is a big tzaddik and that's why I lend him money? No. Gemilus Chesed means from the word chesed. It's a kindness. It has nothing to do with the person's level. So if we're saying that Hashem came to Avraham Avinu because of Bikur Chaylim, which is a part of Gemilus Chesedim, so it has nothing to do with Avraham Avinu because he was a big tzaddik. Al Kain Ton, Kivin Shenegei Eloi Mashein HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nirei Lav, Kvi Shaya Nikar Acharka B'chach, Shedavar Zeh Hevilo Dei B'chiyam, Lachein Al Kadosh Baruch Hu Ligmel Chesed Gam Imoi Ulaharis Atzme Gam Elav. The way the Rebbe points out, someone that it doesn't bother that Hashem doesn't appear to him, if it's not negated to him, so then, okay, so it's not a big chesed that the Eibishter is going to appear to you, because you don't really need it, you're not really missing it. But the Rebbe Rashab, it bothered him so much that he cried because of it. So just like Hashem did a chesed with Avraham Avinu, and he was mevaker es hachoyle, so the same thing that it pains me so much that Hashem doesn't appear to me, Hashem should do also to me a Gemilus Chesed. He should also do to me a chesed. Not because of who I am, and not because I'm like Avraham Avinu, because the reason why Hashem appeared to Avraham Avinu was also not because of Avraham Avinu's level, but because Gemilus Chesed, a chesed, that's it. Well, now the original question, Mashallah Shal al Beis Apamim Shnemer Vayera Hashem al Avram the Parshas Lech Lecha. Lefisha Sham Moya Vayera Kosher L'Malosish L'Avraham Avinu V'Yev Shalei Damas L'Avraham Avinu. Over there in Parshas Lech Lecha, he never even had such a question, because over there he realized it's Avraham Avinu. How should I even think that I'm any way close to Avraham Avinu? Hashem appeared to Avraham Avinu. Fine, Avraham Avinu was Avraham Avinu. I'm not Avraham Avinu. In our parsha, Hashem appeared to Avraham Avinu not because he's Avraham Avinu, but because of Gemilus Chesed, to do something, a kindness. Why doesn't he do the same kindness to me? I miss Hashem also, I want Hashem to appear to me. Tzemach Tzedek, Yehudi Chulam Machlin, Tzarech es Lamol Sa'atzmai. Roi hu, Sha'Hashem Yiroi Love.
How do we know it's for Avraham Avinu's Ma'ala in the previous Parsha?
There's no reason to say not, because it says that he spoke to him and he told him to do certain things and so on. It was part of Avram's ongoing relationship with Hashem. So therefore, it has to do with who Avram was. Why should he think otherwise? Why should he even consider and say that Hashem just appeared to Avraham Avinu stam out of the blue? No. From the whole Kishra in Yanim, Hashem appeared to Avram because he had that type of relationship. It says, L'man yedaitiv asher yitzavas bon avachrov. How am I going to, hamachasa nima Avram, am I going to hide from Avraham Avinu what I'm doing, etc., etc. We see that Hashem expressed that he had a relationship with Avraham Avinu. But over here, where Rashi says it was Bikur Chaylim, so it had nothing to do with the relationship. It just had to do with Gemilus Chasadim. If it has to do with Gemilus Chasadim, I'm also entitled to have a chesed from Hashem. So he says, Af Vayera Hashem, Haya, Loi Mitzad Miles Madregas Avraham Avinu, El Mitzad Gemilus Chasadim Shal Kadosh Baruch Hu, Yesh Tzedek Li'is Ra'ui L'Gemilus Chasadim Zeh, Li'is Keli L'Gili Zeh. He actually brings in the footnote something that we had in, I think it was last week's Sicha, I think we learned about this, about the concept of a matana. Even when you give somebody a gift, there has to be some type of relationship. If the person wouldn't have done something that was pleasing to you, you don't give him a gift. You give a matana to someone that there's a relationship. So the same thing, true. It's a chesed of the Eibishter that he came to be mevaker tzachayla. But he's not going to do this chesed to everyone and anyone. A person needs to be a Keli. A person needs to be someone that has some type of shaykhs, that because of that he's a Keli to be able to receive Hashem's chesed. What's the Keli? Hachlota shebachol matzav shebayiyah vafilu yiyah bedargas tzaddik ben tzaddik tashonim olav lomlos atzmai. So now the Rebbe is going to analyze some more about what Hashem was doing Bikur Chaylim for Avraham Avinu, especially based on certain expressions that Rashi uses, and also connected with Bechlal, that the Gemara learns out that we need to follow Hashem's midos. And just like Hashem does certain acts of Gemilus Chasadim, you have to do it as well. And one of the things that we see is that it says, just like Hashem is mevaker as a cholim, so too you have to do bikur cholim. And they bring it from this parsha, that Avraham Avinu came to be mevaker as a cholim over here. So the Rebbe is going to analyze the Rashi and the whole sugya of Bikur Chaylim that we learned out from this case with Avraham Avinu. What exactly was taking place over here with Hashem's Bikur Chaylim by Avraham Avinu? L'chor yesh li shal biranal soif Bikur Chaylim einay Gemilus Chesedim stam. Elo yesh boi toichen miyuchad shehu kosher l'chayla davke hamevaker mekel bebikurei al yisoidei hachayla. Yisuri, most probably should say Yisuri. It doesn't make sense. Yisuri, al Yisuri achoyla. V'zagufay moyo l'refuasay. B'frat al piyam muva b'gemara shenoitel echad mashishim ba'achoyla. That someone that comes to visit the sick takes a 60th away of the sickness. V'cheinu afilu b'bikur chayla shebal adam. Here we're talking about even one human being, a person, being mevaker chayla, a different person. V'alachas kama v'kama shebikar chaylim shal Kadosh Baruch Hu moyel bevadai l'refuas ha'chayla for sure helps the person become healed. If that's the case, that when Hashem was mevaker Avraham Avinu, it wasn't just a chesed, but it actually helped Avraham Avinu. It made his suffering less. It made his refuah better. So again, why is the Rebbe Rashab asking? He's not sick. There's no purpose. Again, going back to the idea about what was the Rebbe Rashab's question. Forget about the Tzemach Tzedek's answer. What was the Rebbe Rashab's question? It's not just an ordinary Gemilus Chesed. It's not just that Avraham Avinu wanted to see Hashem, and I want to see Hashem, so Hashem should be kind to me. No, the Eibishter was coming here to make things easier on Avraham. Levakir Sachoyle Shakadosh Baruch Hu Mizgala Gam Avur Inyan Acher Shagmis Chasadim She'ena Kashul Lachoyle Tzarich Lefuam Mavakir Noitel Chulam Mechal Yoy. It has nothing to do. Coming to visit the sick is one type of Gemilus Chasadim that the Eibishter is helping out Avraham, but Hashem appearing to me, a 4 or 5 year old that's not sick, it doesn't help me. It's just something that I want. So it's no comparison. So why is he crying that Hashem appeared to Avraham? He appeared to Avraham to help him get better. But to you, he's going to appear, it's not going to help you for anything. So even though you very much wanted Hashem to appear to you, but still, it's not a chesed that you should have to cry about. Like I mentioned before, the Gemara learns out all the different midas toivis that we have to learn out to practice from Hashem. It says Hashem was malbish harumim. That's what He gave clothes to Adam and Chava and Gan Eden. And Hashem is mevaker cholim because He visited Avram. Af ata, you should also be mevaker cholim. So the Rebbe says on that Gemara there's a question similar to what we just now asked. When Hashem appears to be mevaker sachoila, it does a lot more than what anything we could do. The fact that we said that a person that's sick, when someone else visits him, it takes away from his suffering, it brings him refuah. Ben Giloi, according to the Mefarshim in the Gemara, means that he was born under the same mazel. The Gemara asks that, how is it, if you're going to tell me that someone that comes to me in Vakar Zachoyla takes away a 60th, so let 60 people come and they'll totally cure him. So the Gemara answers two answers. A 60th is cumulative. In other words, it's not everybody takes the same 60th. It's once the first one took away a 60th, so the next one is going to take a 60th away of the 59 that's left over. And then the next one is going to take a 60th of whatever's left over further. So even if you have 60 people, it's not going to take away. But that's one answer. Another answer is the person to be able to take away Echad Mishishim from the Machla is only if he's Ben Giloi, if he was born under the same mazel. If he was born in the same time of day, whatever, that the certain mazel shines, so therefore he has the koyach to take that away.
למה דווקא מי שבגיל?
זה נקרא בן גילוי. בן גילוי, יש לו שייכות למזלות. Something that has to do with the mazel l'slamayla.
It's a day or a month, because the mazel's a whole
has to do, I think, with the mazel of the day. The hours of the day, like the mazel, yeah. I think that's what it has to do. I have to look up the Gemara again.
If somebody is really sick, you can find 60 people born in that.
But again, obviously you have both answers, right? Valpiza, if that's the case, that it's only Ben Giloi, so what's it going to help by learning out from Hashem? Heichi alfina mahad HaKadosh Baruch Hu bikar chaylim. The pshit that bikar chaylim ma'idei HaKadosh Baruch Hu hu yoisem bikar ben giloi. And the Rebbe said in the previous footnote that Hashem is called our Ummah. He's called our twin. So Hashem is just like Ben Giloi. It's just like being born under the same mazel, and even stronger than that. So how can you learn out from Hashem that was Mavakar Chayla? Hashem's bikar chaylim helps Avraham Avinu. How can it be Hayra l'chol Adam Yisrael sherubam eina bnei gilui bakar chaylim? How do you learn out from that, from Hashem visiting Avraham, to every single yid that's not a ben gilui of a sick person to be mavakar chaylim? Yesh loymar sherashi v'pirush al ha'torah ramas kan lebir al zeh. Here's where we see an amazing thing what Rashi does. The Rebbe a lot of times says, even though Rashi is Pshutishal Mikra, and Rashi is trying to just give you the simple meaning of the text, but he'll often sneak in the language he uses, in the Lashonis he uses, very deep concepts. So he says an interesting thing. B'meshe kosev levakir. This is what Rashi said. Why did Hashem appear to Avraham? Quote, levakir es hachoyle. Amar Avraham bar Chanina, yom shlishi limelosei haya. Since it was the third day of Avraham Avinu's bris milah, uba hakadosh baruch hu v'sha'al b'shloimei. So the Rebbe is going to ask, what does Rashi want with the words uba hakadosh baruch hu v'sha'al b'shloimei? He already said levakir es hachoyle. Why was he sick? Because it was the third day since his bris milah. But what's this additional words, v'sha'al b'shloimei? What's that trying to add? What is Rashi trying to say with that? The l'churei nemavenas harichus lashon Rashi acher kvar omar levakir es hachoyle mepnei ma hoyse v'ba kadosh baruch hu v'sha'al b'shloimei el shebezeh mashmeinu Rashi shema shakadosh baruch hu ba l'Avram levakir es hachoyle lo yahaya kedei lahakol mechalyoy. We've been going the whole time with the approach that when Hashem was mevaker Avraham Avinu, it would make Avraham Avinu easier. It would be like a bikur chaylim of Ben Giloi that takes away echad mishishim of the chaylas. So the Rebbe says from the words of Rashi, levaker lishol b'shloimai, that means that wasn't what Hashem was doing. And the Rebbe is going to bring us such a simple proof that it can't be that Hashem came over there to heal Avram or to help him with his sickness. Huh? Exactly. Because right afterwards it says the Malachim came and one of the Malachim was there to heal him. Because of Rashi, why were the three malachim? In general, in the question of Rashi is a very strong question. We don't even realize it. When you look throughout Torah, or even throughout Tanakh, you usually see a malach appears. Whether a malach appears to Moshe, a malach appeared to Hagar, a malach appeared to Yeshua, different times in Jewish history where malachim appear. What malach is enough? All of a sudden here, Shloisha Nashim, there are three malachim. So Rashi has to explain, why three? One malach is not enough. What do you need to have three for? So he explained what everyone is supposed to do. One is supposed to help out with tzara, one is supposed to turn over sdaim, one is supposed to save light. And echad, because of Rashi, she'echad mem ba l'rapos es Avram. V'kiv shebalav hachi gamlu levayera levashem. Ha Yavram misrapet legamri yayde malach refal v'zois takef kishabal, like it's brought down that immediately when malach refal came, it was vayaratz Avram alabakar. He right away was running vayaratz lekrosim, because as soon as refal came, immediately he was already healed. Ein makim loymar sheshah kal l'kaydim l'chein yava kadosh baruch hu amnas little menu rak echad mishishim mechalye. Why would the bikur chaylim of Hashem be to help out Avraham Avinu's sickness? Hashem knew that he was sending the malachim. He was sending Malach Michal. The Malach Michal would completely heal him. So what was he doing? Like 5 minutes before the malachim came, he was going to heal him 1/60th. And then Malach Rafal would come 5 minutes later and completely heal him. What's the purpose? So from this we know that when Hashem came to visit Avram, it had nothing to do with making him feel better. V'lachein diak Rashi v'kasav v'ba kadosh baruch hu v'sha'al b'shloimoi haynu sh'amatara b'bikur chaylim sh'akadosh baruch hu haisa loyla rapis al kapanim echad mishishim ela inyan shal Gemilus Chesed bolvad. And that's why we can learn out for every yid. V'lachein yalfina mahachas achir the bikur chaylim l'chol echad miYisrael. Every yid has the obligation to be mevaker zachayla, even if you don't heal somebody when you come to visit, because you're not ben giloi of the chayla. Because Hashem, when he came to visit Avram, was not coming to help him. He was just coming l'shol b'shloimah. V'kiven shakadosh baruch hu higia levaker es achoyle b'toras Gemilus Chesed v'loy kedei lahakol machol yoyim lachein hoysel admon mishmasei natayna shemitzad Gemilus Chesedim tzarech hakadosh baruch hu is gals gamei love canal. When we thought that Hashem was coming to help Avram's sickness, and the Rebbe Rashab has no sickness that he has to be helped. So you can't say that Hashem should come visit me like he came to visit Avram. Avram, he was mevakir tzachayla because he was going to help out his sickness. But since Hashem did not come to Avraham Avinu to help out his sickness, Hashem just came to Avraham Avinu, Gemilus Chesed, completely as Chesed, l'isha b'shloimah. So I also want that Chesed. And that's what Tzemach Tzedek told him. You need to be a Keli for it. And Avraham Avinu was a Keli for it through being 99 years old and doing the mitzvah of Milah.
He cried, so it's also...
So now the Rebbe is going to bring in a very powerful concept. And something that really stands alone, even without the rest of the Sicha. Even if we wouldn't have learned the entire rest of the Sicha, the Rebbe brings an amazing lesson in Chinuch. That what we see, what a child is capable of, and the fact that this was told to us, this means that our children can be somehow brought something of this as well.
למה חזר לו, מזה הוא בא להוכיח למה היה לו טענה שלמה הקדוש ברוך הוא לא נגלה עליו.
כן, והתירוץ, זהו כמו שהצמח צדק, תירץ. צריך להיות כלי. אחרי הכל, אפילו לגמילוס חסדים, צריכים להיות כלי לזה. אחד ההירואים שיש לומד מסיפור זה, כפי שכבר נסבר במקום אחר בארוחה. Yes, there's a different Sicha where the Rebbe speaks about this a lot longer. Kiven sham be'ura hanal ira lad monish to say in biyosin nar ben dalda heishonim botzir me barshis. 6 years old is a certain type of level already of chinuch, but this was even when he was less than 6 years old. Hareizu hoira shafilu etzakotten ben dalda heishonim efsher la'oirer aide chinuch kideboy Tshuka l'ruchnis v'alakus v'ad l'tshuka nifla she'meireres b'chiyam v'ein zesoyser loiros harambam b'negel la'oifen alimud and cotton. That the Rambam explains, how are you supposed to teach a cotton? She'tzarech l'zar ze b'dvarim she'mahuvim etzlei l'katan shonov kra read the chumash v'eten chay goyzim chulu. The Rambam speaks about what we always do in chinuch. We do incentives. You'll get a prize, you'll get coins, you'll get coupons, you'll get whatever. So what are you telling me that a child can be taught to have an amazing shukah for Hashem? So he says, Kiven shama uranal, befrat l'acher, l'kvoit yichus marich hamead mur pirs madavar, gila derech zu bechinuch, v'yesh loima yisayim zu, chidesh derech zu bechinuch. The Hainu B'losh Nachsidus Shepasach Tziner Chodesh. He opened up a new pipeline, new koiches, new channels that we should be able to do this. Shetiya hayechoyles l'chanech kotten ad la'oifen shein yonei alakus yudvarim sheim ahuvim etzloi chelek mikatnes shonov. So true, he's saying. In the Rambam's times, you needed candies, you needed bribes. In our days, once this story was told, and once the story was nisparsim, it's possible to bring a child to a state where they'll have a tshukah to have a lakus itself. So if nature changed in the thousands of years since the Gemara, since the Rambam, or thousands of years since then, so the nature can change for good for this as well. And specifically by the me'ura she'ira bad mun she'sein with the Rebbe Rashab. First, Haide Arizal, Vacharkach, Haide Abal Shem Tov, and then Ad la'oifen da Asaga v'avona Haide Torah Chassidus Chabad. The Lechura Achshir Dara Bitmia, is the generation worthy? Our generation should have these deepest parts of the Torah revealed to it. The Adrab, Mi'achar shebedoros achronim achoshech gadol yoser, nidreshes heisafa ba'oira kedusha. Val derech zeh gam benidin didan. Mitzad is gabras choshech shebedoros achronim, nit in davke achshav akoyach lechanech tanim botzer and batshis. Where the Gemara says that a child under 6 years old is not strong enough to learn with him full time and so on. In the darkness, specifically because the Golus is so dark. Therefore, we were given the power and we were given koiches, which in the days of the Rambam they didn't have. Minyanov amichodim shadmon mishasein haya yisoid shivas tebechet mimim sheba yilmadu nigla Torah yachad and pnimis haTorah k'Torah achas. Not just that they learn nigla and then pnimius is just as a side interesting pursuit. Ukagdam elazeh, before the Rebbe Rashab opened up Temchet Mimim, so as a child he had to start off. The Rebbe Rashab was the one that opened this new path. It says, Al tigu b'Moshiach. The Gemara says, who are considered Moshiach, Lashon Rabim, who are the plural of the ones that are Moshiach by Hashem. That's talking about Elu Tenoikesh Beis Rabim. Children that are learning in yeshiva and cheder, these are called Moshiach. So through getting the Moshiach, through getting the children to act in this type of way and to appreciate in such a way, Yachona Kreva Lebias V'Gila Moshiach She'oz Yekuyim Vayera Hashem. Like it says about Moshiach's times, V'Nigla Kved Hashem V'Ro Kol Basar Yachtav Kipi Hashem Diber V'Lamatam Asar Atvachim B'Karav Mamish Kasher Osim Mar Domat Moshiach.